If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Paul Stone is on with me. Paul, welcome. How are you? I hope you had a great Christmas.
Great, James. Yes, thanks for having me. I hope you did as well.
Oh, I did. Paul, listen, I got to do this. I want to walk us through a few things. Protecting your future is great. We talk about different topics, but I want to hear from you. And I related this when I opened the show today and said we were going to talk to this book that my mom read and then others in her generation about. It was called Passages. And what it did was walk you through the different parts of life journey. So I want to do the same thing financial and talk about protecting people's future. When you're in your young 20s or when you're first working and you begin the process of accumulating the wealth that you will have. Then what happens when you move into your, let's say your 30s, your 40s, you're raising a family in many cases, you're working at it, you're putting away, if you're lucky, some money. How do you protect your future then? You get older, near the end of your career. You're still working. What do you do to shore it up for when you're retired? And once you're retired, fixed income, how do you do it? So let's start at the beginning of the work life. I talk with these, when I do stories, Paul, on Social Security, what's going on in the news with Social Security, with Medicare, whatever, you should see the eyes glaze over from the young kids. They don't. It's like, what is it? Social Security, I'm not even thinking about that. Now, a lot of young kids are looking at things like crypto. Some of them, very young, are starting on apps like Robinhood, so they're starting to trade stocks, some of them. But some of them are not even concerned at all about the future. How do you begin to, if you have younger adults, how do you begin the process of securing your financial future and protecting it at that age?
Well, thank you. That's great stuff. The number one thing I would want to start off pointing out is let's say we were a young Warren Buffett, right? Young, long time ago. Young. Well, what else was young? The country was young in a way. The wars had perfected how our economy could produce incredible machinery, high quality. Things had become organized, getting raw resources out of the ground and onto the supermarket shelf. Our economy was humming, right? How it worked, how it functioned. And so as his investment choices worked out, they also worked out on a grand scale because the country was growing along with him. And today the country is with $36 trillion in debt, you are now using the word protect my money as I grow it. When you were back in Warren Buffett's time, and anyone who started real investing in America in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you were catching the greatness of American finance without debt, without threats. When you're talking about protecting one's money, that wouldn't have been a word that you would use every day long ago because the threats weren't there. So now in your 20s or 30s, it kind of stinks that as you come into life in America, you also have to be very wary of threats to your savings. I'm in the business of trying to help people understand that gold and silver is relevant regardless of what we think we're hearing from the podium, because the math problem is intact and worsening, every day, every year, that we owe more money, that the bills are getting even bigger, that our economy can't produce enough revenue to cover. And so the government has to print money to pay our bills, and the lunacy of that. That wasn't happening at all long ago when this country really started rolling, obviously since the 20s, but certainly after both world wars, this place really took off. The baby boomers came into the fold. There's some things that happened in America and America's economy that really haven't happened anywhere else on earth.
So now, okay, go ahead.
I'm not a financial advisor or a trained economist, so but I focused in on the word choice you're using, which is excellent, and that is protect one's savings as we work, as we grow. Most people are going to be working for a firm that's sponsoring a 401k program or some type of system like that, and you don't have many choices in what that 401k contribution will be invested in.
So what do you think about? Mm-hmm. What do you think about what do you think about the people that are looking at crypto or digital currencies? And by the way, this incoming administration, Donald Trump, is apparently, many people believe, pro-crypto. You have some strong views on crypto. What do you say to young people that say, okay, this is the way I'm going to make wealth and protect my wealth is using crypto? What do you think about that?
If I lose my check card somewhere and someone, racks up $6,000 in purchases, I can complain. And typically it's my understanding the bank's going to refresh my account, obviously close the card, send me a new card, maybe even have to close that checking account. But they're going to replace the money that was fraudulently taken out of my account, right? And they're the big boy, right? The bank's the big boy. They're the ones with the fraud department. They're going to go after and try to investigate who made these purchases on my money. If someone hacks my Bitcoin account, what 800 number am I calling?
1-800-SOL.
The one for Bitcoin, the one for Ethereum, the one for Doge, the one for Litecoin, the one for which? Who do I call to get my money back? My wife forgot her password to her Coinbase account. Well, I don't know. There's probably a few bucks in there now. But we can't get in. We don't remember. Who do we call? No one to call.
Wow. Now, are you expecting that's going to change?
This is what's just lunacy. I'm not only going to put I get to my money through a phone or the internet today, but at least there's still some kind of office I can go into and talk to a person that works at a bank. Who do I talk to with Bitcoin?
Yourself.
My money lives in the computer now. It isn't. I get to it through a computer. It lives in the computer.
Now I have some other views on crypto, as I think some of them, like Ethereum and all that, but that's for another day. Let me move up in age group here. Looking at the clock, I want to get to all four age groups. So now you're in your 30s, your 40s. Maybe you have family. You're working, but we all know, unless you're upper middle class, and even then, if you got private schools, you got everything to deal with. What used to be, if you were making six figures back when, you were doing great. Right now, six figures in certain American cities doesn't take you very far. What do you do to protect your money while you're still working and your 40s, your 30s, your 40s, and you're trying to grow your income while you have these other expenses going on?
It's. I think many. You're right. I mean, the money, the pay that we used to think was grand money, $100,000 in the 80s or 90s would have been a big salary. I mean, that's a house on the corner, right? That's that would have been great income today. Well, wouldn't be that much. And so what many people have had to do to not maybe they weren't forced into it, but they chose to pick up some side hustles, on the weekends or in the evenings. They would start some small business doing something that didn't have a big infrastructure to it, a bunch of costs, and have to do a ton of advertising. But they looked around town to see what can I do, for a few hours on a Saturday and a Sunday and earn a little extra, and then I could buy a fixer-upper. We were talking right in our 30s and 40s here. So maybe I'm going to get some house that, it isn't even a house where I might half the house I live in today, if you're working and making $100,000 a year. Maybe you're downshifting into something that you're starting, at square one in the real estate world. You're looking for something that you can spend some time on that someone else is really going to appreciate once you repair it or restore it in the way of people got to live somewhere. The scary part about how the economy looks these days, again, not a financial advisor or a trained economist, but from what I read and study, try to be a smart person on my own under my own steam, is the movement from the renting world to the owning world. Homelessness doubled last year. Has doubled in the last few years. It's up over 20% last year, if I read the last article.
Yes, it has.
And so that's really sad. That's a headwind that starts to say to me anyway, and I know no one has a crystal ball, so I don't care how many college degrees you have on the matter, that real estate is under threat for long-term, perhaps, appreciation. Because the real driver for more real estate shouldn't be that folks out there are buying up college towns with hedge fund money. It should be that the economy is so hot and wonderful down where the workers are that they keep forcing renters into ownership.
Right. Well, I want to move on. I'm looking again at the clock. We've got a few minutes left. Here's what I want to get to. You sell gold. You sell precious metals. This is what you have created a company to do. Why did you do that? And here's what I always heard. I used to produce a financial show back in my early days. And one of the first things that I heard the host of this show say on the air is that gold, silver, precious metals, and other things like that, he said they are a hedge against inflation. And you need part of your investment portfolio to hedge against inflation. We are suffering right now through an extremely high inflationary period. I saw something on social media. A guy walked through stores in Alaska. Now, Alaska is a little bit extreme. Do you know, Paul, a bag of Doritos cost $12 there?
Good God.
$12. Now, it's not like that in the rest of the states. But that's how high the inflation has reached there. A simple bag of Doritos, $12. Inflation is real, no matter where you live. Explain the whole gold, silver, precious metals, and how that works, and why it is important for people to consider that as part of their financial picture.
The number one thing to start with, and great analogy on Doritos in Alaska, inflation people have to wake up to the fact that inflation is instant. The minute there's money chasing, certainly money that shouldn't be in the financial world, chasing after limited resources, commodities, the price for that resource or commodity is higher than it should be. In the year 2000, our national debt was $4 trillion, and the baby boomers had just started to retire. So just hear that a whole bunch of workers are going away and never coming back to the job, then productivity is going to go down. So that means economic action inside the economy is going to drop, which means the government's not going to get as much money as it used to get, which means the bills are going to start becoming bigger than the earnings for the country. And so the government is going to have to print money, putting money in the economy that shouldn't be there, and they're going to be the cause of inflation since the year 2000 in a big way. Wake up and hear that inflation, if you just do simple math on your own, has been averaging 8% a year since the year 2000. We have never been at 2% on inflation. That is a different Federal Reserve calculating number that they like to use, and how they like you to hear that inflation is like nothing, and it's total hooey. So, yes, it's a hedge. Gold was $300 an ounce back in the year 2000. Today it's $2,700. That should horrify you. Oh, my God, gold can't really do anything if there isn't threats against my paychecks and my savings. Right? So gold's going higher only because there's been epic inflation, because government lunacy when it comes to solving problems is make fake money.
Man.
Gold and silver's a hedge. One hell of a hedge. And it's done a hell of a job against government lunacy, thinking we won't tell the people the truth. We'll give them fake money. $36 trillion in fake money. Stop calling it debt. It's a game. The government officials that we've entrusted to protect the Constitution and protect us from themselves has failed. $36 trillion in fake money to pay our bills, our national bills, managed by the people we've elected, causes epic inflation. Where do you think that money went? We aren't building condos on the moon. We're not building ski resorts in Austria.
Let me just say this about that. We'll leave it here for today, but I got to have you back on because you have touched into something. I call it, we are running this country on monopoly money right now.
You and I aren't. Let's not say we, brother. Let's say them.
They are running it. And then you hear things like this whole Fed strategy. I remember when they were talking about all of this stuff, the quantitative easing and all this
printed
business.
Money, fake money, yep.
Fake money. So we have to have you back just for a discussion on fake money and why and do we expect a change coming up, especially now that you have at least somebody talking in this coming administration about cutting back the size and scope of government, but that's not going to solve the entire financial picture because this debt is, as you say, $36 trillion, and we're spending more trillions every year. We're talking about cutting $2 trillion, and that's going to leave what? Another $4 to $6 trillion in more spending?
So the number one folly in all of this is no one's talking about the source of the bills themselves. Where are these bills coming from? Well, it's coming from an ever-increasing cost to keep our old folks around and satisfied as they go into their golden years. Because as the Fed prints money to give them Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid checks, the money they're printing, fake money, causes all commodity prices to go higher. So now they have to print more money to give them more money so they can afford to pay more money for the things they have to have so they're not eating Alpo on a sidewalk, which causes all the money things to go up more. So they have to print more because the cost of goods and services went up more again. But they have to give our old folks their Social Security checks, and now those have to get bigger again. And as they print, everything becomes more expensive all over again. And now there's $1 trillion a year is the interest on the debt.
We're going to leave it right there for time, but I got to mention one thing to you. I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and one of the first things, Trump better deliver. Every senior, when they talk about taking the taxes off of Social Security, they are looking for that. They want that promise kept because they're saying this money in Social Security is being double taxed, and they want that double taxation over.
Yeah.
Yep. Paul.
Yeah, I know we run out of time.
Paul, you are amazing. I love it, man. We will talk further. You and I are going to talk further about this. I really want to talk about this whole thing about the money supply, the fake money, and how this relates to the global economy, because we're not the only ones running on fake money either. No. Globally, the governments of the globe they have robbed $303 trillion
from the future value of their country's money. You're calling it debt. It's really theft. You're really just stealing from the future and bringing that money here into the moment, which means when you get to the future, you don't have any money. Our dollar today is worth 2.7 cents. That's the buying power of the American dollar. It is almost eviscerated. But yes, global governments owe $303 trillion in debt, which means they are terrible at managing finances.
Wow. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Paul. James Golden. Thank you, Paul.
Can
Paul
we just
Stone,
talk
ladies
about
and gentlemen.
cats and puppies next time? Cats and puppies.
Yes. Cats and
Newborn
puppies,
babies and
all of it.
have
Perfect
a great one.
way to-
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.